When Eilat Mazar realized she discovered an ancient structure near Jerusalem, she turned to the Bible to help explain what she found.
And she learned that this new discovery supports the biblical accounts of King David and his son Solomon.
For nearly 5,000 years, a secret lay buried so deeply that even history seemed to forget it. A tomb believed to belong to King Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest ruler of the ancient world, was said to be sealed forever. Ancient writings warned of forbidden knowledge, dangerous treasures, and truths too powerful for humanity. But when archaeologists finally opened what was thought to be the seal, the discovery didn't just challenge history, it shook it. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe. This is the legend of Solomon's lost tomb. Long dismissed as a myth, it resurfaced when a forgotten tunnel changed everything. For centuries, explorers searched beneath Jerusalem's hills, driven by whispers of a king buried with unimaginable riches, a king whose name still echoes through time, Solomon. He wasn't known only for his wisdom, but for building a kingdom so rich and powerful that it astonished the ancient world. Solomon came to the throne as a teenager, following his father, King David. But he didn't merely preserve the kingdom, he reshaped it entirely. Trade flourished, gold flooded in, and at the heart of it all rose the first temple. Built over 7 years, the temple was a masterpiece. Cedar wood was imported from Lebanon. Gold-covered walls reflected sunlight, and stones were cut so precisely they needed almost no mortar. Yet Solomon's legacy wasn't just architectural, it was moral. One of his most famous judgments involved 2 women who both claimed to be the mother of the same baby. Solomon ordered the child to be divided in 2, not out of cruelty, but to reveal the truth. One woman begged him to spare the child, even if it meant giving him up. That was how Solomon identified the true mother. That moment cemented his reputation as a symbol of justice and wisdom across the ancient world. Even the Queen of Sheba traveled to see him for herself, arriving with caravans loaded with gold, spices, and riddles meant to test his intellect. She left amazed. Not only had Solomon answered every question, he surpassed every story she had heard about him. How can you see through sand? You mean across sand? No, through sand, Your Majesty. Solomon's influence stretched far beyond Jerusalem. His ships sailed to distant lands like Ophir and Tarshish, places some believe were in Africa or India, returning with ivory, exotic animals, and immense wealth. In the Timnah Valley of southern Israel, copper mines under his control produced riches that archaeologists are still uncovering today. Yet one mystery has never been solved. Where was Solomon buried? There is no marked grave, no confirmed burial chamber, nothing to clearly show where the great king was laid to rest. Some believed his tomb lay beneath the Temple Mount. Others suspected secret caves or hidden chambers sealed for thousands of years. Over time, the search slowed. Too many false leads, too many legends. Eventually, most experts walked away. But perhaps this mystery was never meant to be solved so easily. And this is only the beginning of Season 4. We had to keep going. Then something changed. A discovery, whether accidental or long overlooked, depending on who you ask, finally cracked the ancient mystery wide open. And what emerged wasn't just a tomb. It was a message, sealed in silence for 3,000 years, now forcing its way back into the light. Whatever lay inside, this was only the beginning. The relentless hunt for the tomb. We were led deep into excavated passageways and shown what many now call one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in the world. It all began with something almost invisible, a narrow crack in the ground, easy to miss after a heavy rain, ended up changing everything. For centuries, the search for King Solomon's tomb had been like chasing a moving shadow. Medieval knights tunneled beneath the Temple Mount, convinced the answer lay below. Centuries later, 19th century explorers tore through the hills of Judea, certain they were on the brink of discovery. Every expedition ended the same way, empty-handed. Some walked away convinced the tomb was nothing more than legend. Others blamed bad luck, poor timing, or inaccurate maps. By the time the 21st century arrived, most historians and archaeologists had abandoned the search altogether. The mystery was considered dead. Then, quietly, everything shifted. Dr. Emily Carter, an archaeologist better known for studying fragile scrolls than leading field excavations, was deep inside Jerusalem's archives when something unusual caught her attention. Ancient tax records from Solomon's reign revealed a subtle irregularity. Hidden within faded Hebrew text were payments directed to a location that was deliberately left unnamed, a place near the city of David, a site concealed so carefully that even history seemed to lose track of it. Using advanced, ground-penetrating radar capable of seeing through solid stone, her team began scanning a steep, unforgiving slope in Silwan. The land fought back at every step. Sharp limestone shredded equipment. Unstable soil slowed progress. Rising political tensions caused repeated shutdowns. Still, they returned day after day, refusing to walk away. Then nature stepped in. A sudden rainstorm weakened the hillside, exposing a shallow dip in the ground. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, but something about it felt wrong, like it didn't belong there. Beneath that exact spot, the radar began to pulse, steady and rhythmic, like a living heartbeat. The scans revealed tunnels deep below, deliberate in design and unmistakably man-made. The team froze. Excitement surged through them like electricity. The area was immediately secured. Every movement now mattered. Every dig carried risk. It quickly became clear the tunnels were designed to deceive. False entrances, hidden turns, traps meant to mislead thieves and tomb raiders. One careless step could cause centuries of hidden history to collapse into dust. Night after night, Dr. Carter studied fragments of ancient inscriptions, slowly reconstructing a path designed to confuse and protect. The markings didn't demand attention. They whispered instead, subtly pointing toward a concealed entrance hidden in plain sight. But that wasn't the real breakthrough. The turning point came from an old story, a nearly forgotten legend passed down by shepherds for generations. It spoke of a hillside that glowed under moonlight, of a wall that shimmered like scattered stars. Standing on that very hill, Dr. Carter felt it. The ground was soaked. Boots sank with every step. The silence felt heavy, intentional, as if the stones themselves were guarding something sacred. This was different. This was real. They knew they were close. And beyond that sealed tunnel, behind a doorway untouched for thousands of years, something waited. What they uncovered next didn't just rewrite history, it stopped them cold. As the ancient seal was finally broken, the moment felt almost forbidden. What if the only thing separating the modern world from a 3,000-year-old secret was a massive stone slab, one never meant to be touched, let alone opened? The seal did not give way quietly. It thundered, as if something ancient had finally released a breath it had been holding for millennia. After weeks of grinding through razor-sharp limestone, choking dust, and constant uncertainty, Dr. Emily Carter and her team had followed a fragile trail, one that led from crumbling tax records to a long-forgotten hillside in Silwan. Now they stood face to face with it, a massive stone slab buried so deeply in history it felt as if the earth itself had worked to hide it. This wasn't just another rock lost in the ground. It was a boundary, a warning, and a carefully engineered puzzle all at once. Opening it would never be as simple as pushing or pulling. The slab was part of a much larger system, designed to protect whatever lay beyond. Hidden within the narrow tunnel walls were false passages and deliberate dead ends, some built to collapse the entire structure if disturbed. The craftsmanship was ancient, but the strategy behind it was frighteningly precise. This was a defensive masterpiece, created by people who fully expected grave robbers, and made sure they would fail. As the ground groaned beneath their boots, Dr. Carter focused on faded Hebrew markings carved near the entrance. One detail stood out immediately: a precise sequence. 7 lines, 7 symbols, a carved pattern directly tied to the 7-year construction of the first temple. This wasn't decoration. It was instruction. It was a message. Her team moved with extreme caution, using laser tools and 3D scanners to map every groove, corner, and chamber, treating the site like a live explosive. The air felt thick, heavy with tension. One wrong move could trap or bury the entire crew. For 3 straight days, they adjusted hidden mechanisms, aligned ancient stone components, and held their breath every time stone scraped against stone. The deeper they went, the quieter the tunnel became, almost as if the mountain itself was listening. Then it happened. A sharp snap cracked through the passage. A deep rumble followed. Dust poured from the ceiling. The slab began to move. Not quickly, not smoothly, just enough. A thin, black opening appeared, leading into something unknown. The team stepped back, staring into the darkness. There was no sound, no rush of air, just cold, silent blackness, waiting on the other side. Dr. Carter raised her hand, signaling everyone to freeze. No one spoke. No one moved. This wasn't just progress. This was history breathing again, for the first time in thousands of years. But whatever waited beyond that opening wasn't finished, revealing itself. The tomb hadn't given up all its secrets, and what came next would leave even the strongest skeptics speechless. If you're feeling the pull of this mystery, go ahead and like this, because the story only goes deeper from here. A glimpse of Solomon's wealth. The moment a flashlight beam caught a flash of gold, time seemed to stop. No one spoke. No one even breathed. There was only that heavy silence, the kind that settles in when you realize you're no longer chasing a legend. You're standing inside it. Deep beneath the city of David, inside a sealed chamber untouched for thousands of years, Dr. Carter's team stood shoulder to shoulder, their flashlights trembling slightly in their hands. What lay before them wasn't rumor brought to life. It wasn't folklore. It wasn't a story passed down through generations. It was real. And it was finally here. This was real treasure, not scattered or forgotten, but carefully arranged, stacked with intention, tucked neatly into corners as if it had been patiently waiting to be found. Along the stone walls sat golden vessels, their surfaces etched with ancient Hebrew. As light passed over them, they gleamed as though they had been polished only moments ago. The air itself felt different, It carried a strange, unmistakable scent: thyme, resin, spices, earthy and sweet, hanging thick in the chamber. At the far end of the room, a seven-branched menorah rose directly from the floor, solid and flawless. Its proportions, curves, and base matched every historical description of the menorah that once stood in the first temple. This wasn't a museum replica behind glass. This was real, possibly original, and it felt like only the beginning. Every direction they turned, the chamber seemed to whisper a different story. Fragments of silk, faded but unmistakable, hinted at ancient trade routes stretching as far as India. Delicate ivory carvings spoke of negotiations and exchanges with African kingdoms long lost to time. Small jewelry boxes, some still tightly sealed, held earrings and chains set with emeralds, rubies, and lapis lazuli. One archaeologist, clearly overwhelmed, leaned in and whispered, "This makes the British Museum look like a thrift shop." Then came another shock. A sealed clay jar was carefully opened, releasing a soft puff of scent into the air. Saffron, frankincense, and something bright, almost citrus-like. The spices smelled impossibly fresh, as though time itself had stopped the moment the lid was sealed. It felt almost unreal, too perfect, as if someone, long ago, had planned for this exact moment of discovery. But not everything fit. Some artifacts carried symbols no one could immediately identify. A few pieces showed styles that felt newer, or at least different from the rest. Could some of this belong to Rehoboam, Solomon's son, or perhaps another ruler who chose to hide his wealth beside a growing legend? The excitement in the chamber was undeniable. So was the unease. In a place like this, doubt doesn't stay quiet. It echoes. Still, each object, every jewel, every carving, added another piece to a larger picture. Together, they formed something that felt lifted straight from Scripture. Yet as breathtaking as the chamber was, it felt incomplete, like a preview, not a conclusion. The team moved with extreme caution. Laser scanners traced every surface. Nothing was touched without careful documentation. One careless move could destroy what the desert had protected for centuries. The menorah alone had the power to rewrite everything we know about the first temple. But no one celebrated. Not yet. They had come searching for a tomb, and this place didn't feel like one. Still, everyone sensed it. This chamber wasn't the end. It was the first layer, and whatever lay deeper had been buried for a reason. The writing that changed everything. As the initial rush began to fade, Dr. Carter's attention shifted to something far more unsettling: the walls. As torchlight swept across the stone, a cluster of carvings emerged from the shadows. These weren't decorations. The symbols felt deliberate, almost alive, vibrating with meaning. At the center was a sharp, star-shaped seal, carved with precision and intent. It was nearly identical to the mark described in ancient texts as the Seal of Solomon. Not just a royal emblem, but according to legend, a powerful symbol said to command spirits themselves. And that wasn't all. What if they were hiding something far greater? Then someone saw it. A chest, tucked into a dark recess in the wall, nearly invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. About the size of a carry-on bag, it appeared dense and impossibly heavy. Metal latches sealed its surface, and carved into it was the same star symbol etched into the walls. There were no hinges, no visible locks, no obvious way to open it. The air shifted as the team gathered around. No one reached for it. No one dared. Opening it felt dangerous, too dangerous. And yet the pull was undeniable. Was this where Solomon hid his true secrets? Could it point toward the Ark of the Covenant, or would it only lead them deeper into mystery? And just when it seemed the chamber had revealed everything it could, someone noticed something wrong. A symbol in the carvings that didn't match the others. A mark that felt out of place, out of time. That was the moment everything changed, when the story took a sharp, unexpected turn. The academic firestorm. It wasn't the treasure. It wasn't the menorah. It was a single sentence carved into stone, one that sounded as if Solomon himself was speaking from beyond the grave. Dr. Carter's team had just finished decoding the star-shaped carvings when they spotted it along the eastern wall, barely catching the edge of torchlight. 5 lines of ancient Hebrew, worn by centuries, still sharp enough to send chills through the room. It read, "May wisdom guide my hand as the stars guide sailors." The words hit hard, not just for their poetic rhythm, reminiscent of Proverbs, but because they felt personal, intimate, as though someone, perhaps Solomon himself, had left a message meant to survive millennia of silence. Back at base camp, the quiet exploded. Laptops chimed, phones buzzed, high-resolution images of the inscription shot across the globe. By sunrise over Jerusalem, the academic world was already on fire. Some scholars called it the smoking gun. The language, the style, the location, all aligned perfectly with Solomon's reign, dated between 970 and 931 BCE. When combined with the menorah, the trade goods, and the architectural diagrams, they declared it the missing link, the man behind the myth. But not everyone agreed. Critics moved fast, tearing the evidence apart line by line. Some questioned the carving's authenticity. Others argued the wording was too polished, too perfect. A few pointed to faint symbols near the inscription, hints of Persian influence, suggesting a later hand might have imitated Solomon's voice. Conference halls erupted. Online forums descended into chaos. Professors shouted over one another on live streams. Journal editors delayed publications. Headlines screamed everything from "Solomon found" to "holy hoax." And at the center of it all, Dr. Carter remained steady. "We didn't set out to find a king," she said, "but the clues kept piling up. And if that's not worth exploring, what is?" Every line of that inscription now carried weight beyond words. It hinted at a ruler wrestling with power, looking to the stars for guidance, possibly leaving behind the only first-person trace of his reign. But one question still remained. If the carving was real, then who or what was sealed inside the final chamber just ahead? Solomon's name may have sparked debate, but what the team was about to uncover next had the power to silence everyone. Share this with someone who loves a mystery, because this story is only just beginning.